Joseph Misante was a carpenter who worked in his rural community. He built furniture, including a desk for the Reverend at Rear Methodist Church. One morning, police found Joseph dead behind that same desk. A window had been smashed open. A handgun rested near his feet. Blood covered the office floor. Investigators noticed glass fragments under Joseph's boots. That detail created two possibilities. Either he broke the window himself before dying, or someone else broke it earlier and Joseph walked into an already compromised scene. Until evidence proved otherwise, detectives treated the death as a homicide. The medical examiner's office was called immediately. Joseph's wife, Cindy Misante, worked as the church secretary for Reverend Arthur Burton Shermer. When detectives looked into Joseph's life, they discovered an affair between Cindy and the pastor. That revelation changed everything. Joseph's sister had already called the police with concerns about the Reverend's character. Now those concerns had a foundation. A man discovers his wife is cheating with the pastor. That same man ends up dead in that pastor's church office. Detective Wagner said his job was to be suspicious of everyone. The affair gave the pastor a clear motive, but investigators needed more than motive. They needed evidence. 3 months before Joseph died, Pastor Shermer's second wife, Betty, was killed in a car crash. It happened at 2 in the morning on a deserted road. The pastor told police a deer jumped out. He swerved. The car hit a guardrail. Betty was not wearing her seatbelt. She suffered severe head trauma and was life-flighted to a hospital. She never regained consciousness. The pastor decided to take her off life support. No autopsy was performed. Within days, Betty's body was cremated. The coroner's office accepted the pastor's account. The case was closed as a traffic accident. No one questioned it at the time. Betty was not the first wife Pastor Shermer had lost. In 1999, his first wife, Jewel, was found at the bottom of the basement stairs. The pastor said he had been out for a 45-minute run. He claimed Jewel had been vacuuming, tripped, and fell. A vacuum cleaner lay nearby, with its cord wrapped around her legs. At the hospital, Jewel's face was unrecognizable. Her brother said every inch was black and blue. Doctors diagnosed a heart attack that caused the fall. The pastor declined an autopsy. The death was ruled accidental. But Jewel's family never believed that story. Something felt wrong from the first moment. Jewel's brother refused to let the case go. He called law enforcement, and Jewel's body was taken for an autopsy. But when the body arrived at the medical examiner's office, her heart was gone. She had been an organ donor. That struck Dr. Ross as deeply unusual. A woman who supposedly died of a heart attack had donated her healthy heart. Dr. Ross obtained microscopic slides of Jewel's heart tissue. He examined them carefully. Under the microscope, he saw no dead tissue, no scarring, no evidence of a heart attack at all. The conclusion was unavoidable. Jewel Shermer did not die of a cardiac event. Something else killed her. Years later, after Joseph's death and the discovery of the affair, investigators reopened Betty's crash. They found detailed photographs taken by patrol officers at the scene. Dr. Ross examined every image. The car had minimal damage. The airbags had not deployed. The vehicle was still drivable, but Betty's injuries were catastrophic. That mismatch was a red flag. Then Dr. Ross studied the blood inside the passenger compartment. Blood was pooled under Betty's body in the seat. That should not happen in a forward collision. A person rebounds back into the seat after impact. Blood does not settle underneath them unless they were already bleeding before sitting down. Investigators secured a search warrant for the parsonage garage. They knew the pastor always parked his PT Cruiser with the passenger side against the wall. That side of the car was never visible from outside. Inside the garage, the concrete floor appeared clean, but the forensic team sprayed luminol, a chemical that makes blood glow in the dark. The floor erupted in light. A trail of blood stretched from the back door to where the passenger side of the car would have been. It was a massive amount of blood. Testing confirmed it belonged to Betty Shermer. She had bled heavily on that garage floor before she ever got into the car. When confronted with the blood evidence, Pastor Shermer first denied that Betty ever bled in the garage. Then he changed his story. He claimed a pile of wood had fallen on Betty, cutting her arm. Investigators searched the wood pile. At the very bottom, beneath layers of lumber, they found a local newspaper. The date on that newspaper was September 2008. Betty died in July 2008. She could not have moved that wood onto a newspaper published 2 months after her death. The pastor's explanation was impossible. He had beaten Betty inside the garage, then staged the car crash to cover up the murder. The lie unraveled completely. Betty had been cremated, but a CT scan from the hospital still existed. Dr. Ross converted those two-dimensional images into a three-dimensional model of Betty's skull. The model revealed 2 distinct lacerations on the right side of her head. Not the front, not the forehead, the right side. A car crash pushes a passenger forward. Injuries would be to the front of the head. These were not. They were consistent with a blunt object, a pipe, a crowbar, something swung with force. Then Dr. Ross compared Betty's injuries to Jewel's. Both women had similar head wounds. Both had been struck multiple multiple times. The same husband, the same pattern. To test Jewel's fall, investigators used crash test dummies on a replica staircase. Sensors measured the forces. The dummies hit their necks, ribs, and pelvises. Jewel had none of those injuries. She had 4 separate skull fractures. That meant she was struck repeatedly, not fallen once. The medical examiner changed Jewel's manner of death to homicide. Pastor Shermer was arrested at Cindy Masante's home. He was convicted of Betty's murder and pleaded no contest to Jewel's. Joseph's death remained a suicide, but the pastor was linked to all 3. He received 20 to 40 years in prison. He will never leave.